They called her Joanna the Mad. But madness is a word the world uses when it cannot understand love. In the silent corridors of Spain's great palaces, her story still echoes, the story of a queen who refused to let death take away what she loved most. Joanna was born a princess of power, daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella, the monarchs who united Spain and sent Columbus to the New World. She was their pride, brilliant and beautiful, though from the start her eyes carried a shadow, a quiet storm no one could name. Her destiny was political, not personal. She was sent to marry a prince of the Habsburg Empire, Philip the Handsome, they called him. Europe's golden man. When Joanna first saw him in 1496, the world around her seemed to stop breathing. Philip was everything she had imagined, tall, magnetic, dangerous. They were supposed to meet formally with courtly rituals, but the moment their eyes met, the ritual was broken. They kissed before words could be spoken, before the priests could finish the ceremony. It was scandalous. It was love, wild, unstoppable, consuming. But love, when it burns too brightly, begins to destroy what it touches. Philip was handsome, yes, but also faithless. The same charm that drew Joanna to him drew countless others. The Queen of Castile became jealous, not the soft jealousy of a woman, but the fury of a queen who would not be replaced. She raged, screamed, clawed at his mistresses. Once, it is said, she cut the hair of one of Philip's lovers herself, dragging her by the arm through the court. The nobles whispered. Her enemies smiled. And Philip began to fear her. Yet despite it all, she loved him more. Even when his heart wandered, hers stayed chained to him. Theirs was a love that became a prison, for both. Then came the sickness. It began with fevers and fainting spells, a mysterious illness that no physician could stop. Philip's golden skin grew pale, his lips blue. Joanna watched helplessly as the light left his eyes. And when death finally came, something inside her refused to accept it. She screamed, cursed God, refused to eat, refused to sleep. She ordered the coffin sealed, then demanded it opened again to see his face. The courtiers tried to stop her, but she would not listen. She kissed his cold lips, wrapped her arms around the corpse, and whispered to it as if he could still hear her. They buried Philip in the monastery at Miraflores. Joanna ordered the coffin unearthed. She could not leave him underground. She had it placed in a cart, covered with black cloth, and began a strange procession across the frozen plains of Castile. Wherever she went, she ordered the coffin to be placed beside her bed. The wind howled. The monks crossed themselves. People whispered that the queen had gone mad. But Joanna said, "How can I leave him alone in the dark?" At night, she would open the coffin to gaze upon him. Candles flickering, shadows dancing on the dead face she still called beautiful. Once, when her attendants begged her to stop, she drew a dagger and threatened to kill anyone who touched him. She forbade women to come near the coffin, fearing Philip might awaken and look upon another face before hers. She traveled only at night, saying daylight disturbed her husband's rest. Villagers along the road saw the torches of her caravan moving like a river of ghosts through the fields, and they began to call her La Loca, Joanna the Mad. The church begged her to let the king be buried. Her father, Ferdinand, arrived, not out of compassion but to take control of her kingdom. He found her thin, hollow-eyed, sitting beside the coffin, whispering lullabies. Ferdinand wept, not for her but for Spain. She is no longer fit to rule, he declared. He locked her in the convent of Tordesillas, a prison of stone and silence. But even there she kept Philip's coffin close. Every day she visited it, spoke to it, touched it. Her children were taken from her, her throne stripped away, yet she clung to the memory of her husband as if it were her last breath. In the candlelight of that cold cell, she became a legend, a queen who loved so fiercely that even death could not separate her from the man she adored. Some called it madness. Others called it devotion. But in the stillness of history her voice still whispers. They buried him, but I will never let him go. Years passed and time itself seemed to forget Joanna. The world outside her walls changed. Kings rose, empires fell, and her son Charles became the most powerful ruler in Europe. But within those convent walls time stood still. They say that in Tordesillas, the queen no longer spoke to anyone except the coffin. Every morning she would wake before dawn, light a candle, and shuffle barefoot through the cold corridor to the small chapel where Philip's casket rested. Her maids, few who dared to stay, would watch her lay her hand upon the lid, her lips moving silently. No one knew if she prayed or if she still whispered to him. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she cried. And sometimes she simply stood there, staring at the coffin for hours as if she could still see him breathing inside. The guards and nuns began to talk of strange sounds at night. Footsteps, whispers, even the echo of two voices speaking softly in the dark. They swore they heard music, faint and distant, like the waltz Joanna and Philip once danced at their wedding. But when they opened the door, the queen stood alone, holding her candle, the coffin beside her, untouched. Her father Ferdinand died in 1516. Her son, now Emperor Charles V, came to visit her years later. He was the ruler of half the world, Spain, the Netherlands, the Americas, yet when he saw his mother sitting beside that same coffin he could barely speak. He ordered it removed, but she screamed, clawed and cursed him. The soldiers hesitated. No one could take the coffin from her without feeling the weight of something sacred, or cursed. Charles relented. He left it there beside her and locked her room again. She lived like that for decades, alone, surrounded by memories and shadows. She refused to eat meat, saying Philip didn't like the smell. She refused to change her clothes, saying he would not recognize her if she looked different. In the winter she slept without fire, whispering that her husband's love kept her warm. Sometimes she would ask the nuns, "Do you think he misses me?" And when they hesitated she would smile, that strange, beautiful, broken smile, and say, "He does. He told me so." Years turned into decades. Her hair turned white, her face hollow. The once mighty queen became a ghost of herself, trapped between the living and the dead. Even her son stopped visiting. The kingdom spoke of her in whispers as if even her name could bring bad luck. But she didn't care. Her love had become her world, her madness her only kingdom. One night, during a thunderstorm, the convent shook with wind and rain. The guards found her room open, the candles blown out. Joanna was kneeling beside the coffin, her head resting on the lid. They called her name, but she didn't move. She had finally fallen asleep beside him, forever. The queen who refused to let death win, had finally joined the one she loved. When they buried her, they placed her body next to Philip's as she had always wanted. Centuries later, when historians opened their shared tomb, they found their bones side by side, two lovers reunited at last. And thus ended the tale of Joanna of Castile, the queen who loved so fiercely that even madness could not shame her, nor death could separate her. History called her La Loca, the Mad Queen. But maybe she wasn't mad at all. Maybe she was the only one who ever truly understood what love really is, something the sane could never survive. Because love, when it becomes eternal, is indistinguishable from madness.